The film begins in a futuristic but dystopian Britain. Alex DeLarge is the leader of a gang of droogs, Georgie, Dim, and Pete. The gang is seated intoxicated in the Korova Milk Bar, drinking Milk Plus, an intoxicating beverage that prepares the gang for an evening of ultra-violence. They begin by first assaulting a vagrant in the street, who is a disgraced veteran. The vagrant mourns how mankind has reached the moon, but has no regard for old poor men like him. They accentuate this night of violence by engaging in a fight with a rival gang in an abandoned building. Alex and his boys make quick work of the gang and escape just as the police arrive in a stolen Durango 95. They proceed into the dark countryside, driving under a truck and even causing several accidents. But the night is still young, and Alex and his droogs are unsatisfied. They drive to the country home of writer Frank Alexander and ring his bell. His wife, Mary, checks on the door, and Alex claims that his friend got into an accident and he needs to call an ambulance using her telephone. Skeptical, Mary doesn't allow him in, but Frank considers the emergency valid enough to allow them inside. However, as she opens the door, the droogs violently burst inside, carrying the wife with them. Once inside, they proceed to break apart his house, beat Frank to the point of crippling him, and Alex violently assaults Frank's wife while singing "Singin' in the Rain," forcing Frank to watch. Tired from a night of violence, Alex and his droogs return to the Korova for Milk Plus. However, when Alex notices another customer singing Beethoven's Ninth, he becomes infatuated. So much so that when Dim breaks into a laugh, Alex assaults him for having no manners. Dim threatens to leave the gang, and Alex threatens to beat him should he challenge Alex's authority. Terrified, Dim calms down and considers going to bed. Alex returns to his apartment, where he lives with his mother and father in Municipal Flat Block 18A, Linear North. In Britain, most of the population lives in dilapidated apartment complexes. He tries the elevator, which doesn't work, and proceeds up the staircase. In his room, he collects the night's steel in a drawer, caresses his pet snake, Basil, and plays Beethoven's Ninth. As he enjoys the symphony, Alex has fantasies of ultra-violence. In the morning, Alex's mother wakes him up, reminding him that he might be late for school, but Alex accuses himself, saying he has pain in his head. Though she says he hasn't been to school in a week, Alex says he will miss even more days should he be made to go to school. She leaves him with breakfast and informs Alex's father of it, who questions why Alex is skipping school and what job he does late at night. But his mother believes Alex does charity work. When his parents leave for work, Alex walks out of his room, only to be surprised by his probation officer, P.R. Deltoid, who has been waiting for him to wake up. Deltoid is aware of Alex's activities after hearing about him from Billy Boy, the rival gang leader Alex beat up, and cautions him since Alex getting arrested again will also reflect poorly on his probation officer. Deltoid questions what causes Alex to have bouts of violence since he has an intelligent brain and a loving family. Scientists have been conducting studies on the phenomenon for nearly a century, but they've been unable to understand it. He believes that Alex is approaching the time for another arrest. Anxious and angry, Deltoid had been drinking from a glass of water containing Alex's mother's jaw. In the evening, Alex goes to a record store to buy a record, where he becomes infatuated with two gorgeous women and invites them into his room for some pleasure. Meanwhile, his droogs await outside. Once Alex descends the staircase again, he finds them waiting. Alex's droogs begin by questioning if he hadn't appeared today at the Korova because he was offended after last night's embarrassment with Dim. But Alex apologizes for not making an appearance and attributes it to his headache. But Dim and the others respond sarcastically, cracking jokes at his headache, which makes Alex furious, demanding they tell him what they plan. The droogs express discontent with petty crime and want more equality and high-yield thefts, requiring Alex not to flaunt his leadership and pick on Dim. They call it the New Way. Though Alex agrees at first, while the gang is walking towards the Korova bar, Alex asserts his authority by attacking them and cutting a wound in Dim's hand using a knife. To finally put an end to the matter, Alex decides to be generous and asks Georgie about his plan. Georgie reveals a rich cat lady, Miss Weathers, who lives alone on the outskirts of town in a mansion containing jewels. They try to use the same ruse of wanting to use the woman's telephone for an emergency, but the woman refuses to open the door. Instead, Alex decides to climb into the house from an open window and open the door for the others from the inside. Meanwhile, Miss Weathers calls the police, alerted by the similarity between what Alex said to her and what was quoted in the newspapers about what the assailant said to the writer's wife after they were assaulted last night. Just as Alex breaks into the house, the officer promises to look into it. Alex taunts her by toying with a phallic sculpture, which Miss Weathers considers a work of art. Furious, Miss Weathers tries to attack him, but Alex dodges all her blows and bludgeons her with the sculpture, while his droogs remain outside. On hearing sirens, Alex tries to flee, but Dim smashes a bottle in his face, stunning Alex and leaving him to be arrested. At the police station, Alex refuses to talk without the presence of a lawyer, and the police start assaulting him. Deltoid brings word that the woman has died of her injuries, though Alex insists he's innocent and that he was manipulated by his droogs, who have run away. The officers allow Deltoid to assault Alex, who spits in his face. After a trial, Alex is convicted of murder and sentenced to 14 years in prison. A prison officer assigns Alex the number 655321, telling him that he will be referred to by that henceforth and that Alex will call everyone Sir. He's asked to empty his pockets. When Alex throws the chocolate bar on the table, the officer tells him to pick it up and place it properly. All of his property is placed in an envelope to be returned upon release. Alex is made to be completely undressed while the officer asks him psychological and physiological questions and questions about his sexuality. Once all this probing is done, he's sent for a bath. 2 years into the sentence, during a prison church service, the prison officer stands shocked as he watches a group of male prisoners trying to seduce Alex, who is now an altar boy. When the prisoners start burping and screaming, the priest resumes by reminding them of the tortures of hellfire, and even the prison officer joins in, but the prisoners cannot be disciplined. Surprisingly, Alex is the most disciplined one among them. Alex explains how he spent a horrible 2 years surviving violent wardens and perverted prisoners, finding some refuge in Sunday service, where the priest took a liking to him because Alex was interested in the Bible. However, Alex only read the violent parts of the Bible, imagining himself in the most violent bits of the Bible. When the priest praises him, Alex asks him if he's making progress with his discipline in prison. The priest admits that Alex has shown a genuine desire to reform. Alex asks to speak with the priest privately. The priest assumes Alex wants to talk about something sexual, but Alex says he wants to discuss the Minister of the Interior's new Ludovico technique, an experimental aversion therapy for rehabilitating criminals within 2 weeks. The priest, who does not like the technique, says it's only in its experimental stage, and thus is unproven, and that it rids human beings of the agency of free will. Furthermore, the governor has grave doubts about it, but Alex is eager to be a test subject for this procedure. During an exercise routine, Frederick, Minister of the Interior, appears on a sudden visit to the prison and comes to inspect the prisoners. The minister believes that cramming the prisoners in a small space breeds more violence, and when it is suggested to increase the size of the prisons, the minister believes that it is not possible, as the government cannot spare the funds. Furthermore, the prisons will only be used to deal with political prisoners now, with common criminals being pushed out. When he mentions that criminals enjoy being punished, Alex agrees, to the shock of everyone, and the prison officer chastises him. But the minister is impressed by his bold attitude and decides to choose him for the procedure. Alex is taken to meet the prison governor, who is a conservative man critical of the new methods that the new Minister of Interior is introducing to rehabilitate the prisoners, and believes they should be punished. But orders are orders. Alex is made to sign 3 documents without even being allowed to read them, and transferred to the Ludovico Medical Facility. Alex is handed over to Dr. Alcott at the facility, who is made to sign the transfer documents and hand them over to the new officer in charge. The prison officer warns the doctors that Alex is a brutal man without remorse. In his room, Alex meets Dr. Branham, the assistant of Dr. Brodsky, the doctor at the head of the treatment. He is given an injection of an experimental serum and informed that one such injection will be administered to him after every lunch. Alex is strapped to a chair. His eyes are clamped open while a doctor lubricates his eyes with drops, and a headrest is placed upon his head with wires coming out of it. He is injected with drugs. He is then forced to watch perverse films and films containing violence. Though enjoying it first, Alex becomes nauseated by the violence depicted in the films, but he can neither look around nor close his eyes. He suddenly wants to get out. Dr. Brodsky theorizes that very soon, the drug administered earlier will cause Alex to have a death-like paralysis, together with deep feelings of terror and helplessness. Once this experiment is repeated over time, Alex's brain will associate this deathly feeling with the concept of violence. After the session, Dr. Branham informs Alex that Dr. Brodsky is very pleased with his progress and has decided to provide him with 2 sessions tomorrow. When Alex questions why he's feeling nauseous after watching violence when earlier he felt happy about it, Dr. Branham explains that it is because violence is a bad thing and he's becoming cured. The following day, Alex realizes that the movies containing violence are accompanied by the music of his favorite composer, Ludwig van Beethoven. Fearing the technique will make him sick upon hearing Beethoven, Alex begs for an end to the treatment. But Dr. Brodsky apologizes to Alex, saying this can be the punishment element of his treatment, which ought to please the prison governor. 2 weeks later, the minister demonstrates Alex's rehabilitation to a gathering of officials. Frederick says that, while earlier, the prison taught him hypocrisy and how to conceal his violence to remain disciplined, the treatment has cured Alex. The demonstration begins, and Alex cannot fight back against an actor who taunts and attacks him and even forces him to lick his shoe. He becomes ill upon seeing a topless woman, unable even to touch her. The prison chaplain complains that Alex has been robbed of his free will, but Frederick asserts that the Ludovico technique will cut crime and alleviate crowding in prisons, which is their actual concern. Alex is released from prison and returns home, but his parents are unprepared for his arrival. Furthermore, there's another man in their house. Alex learns that his parents have rented his room to a man named Joe, who says he's been more of a son to Alex's parents than him. When Alex tries to punch Joe, he feels sick. To top it off, Alex learns that the police have sold his possessions to provide compensation to his victims, and his snake, Basil, has died. Furthermore, Alex's father asserts that Joe has a contract with his company for 2 years and has already paid the next month's rent, meaning he cannot be removed from Alex's room. Lastly, Joe says he cannot abandon the old couple to a criminal like Alex. Alex and his mother break into a sob, and Alex leaves, promising to make it on his own. Out in the cold, Alex contemplates jumping in the water and encounters the elderly vagrant whom he attacked years earlier. The vagrant recognizes him, and he and his friends attack him. Alex is saved by 2 policemen, but is shocked to find they are his former droogs, Dim and Georgie. They drive him to the countryside, though Alex insists that a long time has passed since their violent days, and that Alex is cured now. The two insist that enough is remembered for them to require revenge. They beat him and nearly drowned him before abandoning him. Abandoned with no money and a home in the middle of nowhere during heavy rain, Alex barely makes it to the doorstep of a nearby home, the home of Mr. Frank Alexander, who is now using a wheelchair after Alex's assault. Frank now owns a bodyguard, Julian, who finds Alex collapsing inside when he opens the door. Julian carries Alex inside, and Frank asks Alex where he's from, almost not recognizing him, and Alex says that the police beat him up. Suddenly, however, Frank recognizes Alex, saying he knows him. Alex is shocked at first, but suddenly Frank says he knows of him and the Ludovico technique from the newspapers, calling him a victim of torture. Alex happily admits that he's a victim of the system, and Frank orders Julian to prepare a bath for him. He sees Alex as a political weapon and prepares to present him to his colleagues, saying that the new government is an authoritarian one, which is recruiting ruffians in the police to arrest political dissidents and reforming common criminals using violent brainwashing techniques. He wants to expose this before the new election. However, while bathing, Alex breaks into Singin' in the Rain, causing Alexander to realize that Alex was the person who assaulted his wife and him. The following morning, Alex is given breakfast, and Frank and Julian pretend everything is fine. Alex cannot help but notice that the two have become noticeably hostile towards him. Frank pours Alex a glass of wine, forcing him to drink it without Frank and Julian joining him. Alex's suspicions are confirmed now, and try as he might to avoid drinking it, he has no choice. Once he drinks one glass, Frank pours another one. Frank suddenly mentions his wife, saying that she died after the incident, without directly mentioning Alex's involvement in it. Frank mentions he has friends who want to help Alex, and suddenly the doorbell rings. Alex tries to leave, but Frank and Julian prevent him, and Frank offers him another glass of wine. 2 journalists arrive and begin questioning Alex about the incident. When one journalist mentions how he was inadvertently conditioned against music, Alex explains how he was fascinated by Beethoven's Ninth, and now he can no longer listen to it without feeling deathly sick. While he's talking, the drug from the wine kicks in, and Alex is knocked unconscious. When he comes to, Alex finds himself locked in an upstairs bedroom. Suddenly, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony starts playing loudly from the floor below. As Alex is tortured by the pain, Frank rejoices in his suffering. Unable to withstand the sickening pain, Alex attempts to kill himself by jumping out of the window. However, Alex survives the attempt and wakes up in hospital with multiple injuries. Suddenly, his case is all over the news, with Frederick, the Minister of Interior, being accused of inhumane practices that almost led to Alex's death. Alex's parents visit him in the hospital and apologize for abandoning him. The following morning, a psychologist visits Alex, who says that he's had a repeated dream of doctors tinkering with his brain, but the doctor tells him that it's part of his recovery process. While being given a series of psychological tests, he finds that he no longer has aversions to violence. Over the course of his recovery, Alex is given a luxury lifestyle, a whole ward to himself with food and medical care. The minister arrives one day and apologizes to Alex for the treatment, saying an inquiry will place the responsibility for Alex's near death on the scientists who performed the treatment on him. He informs Alex that the government has had Mr. Frank institutionalized because he had fantasized that Alex had caused the death of his wife and was hounding for Alex's blood. However, the real reason behind this is that Frank wrote politically subversive literature. He offers to take care of Alex and get him a job in return for cooperating with his election campaign and public relations counteroffensive. As a sign of goodwill, the minister brings in a stereo system playing Beethoven's Ninth. The press takes pictures as Alex can listen to the music without feeling sick. Alex then contemplates violence and has vivid thoughts about a woman in front of an approving crowd, thinking to himself, "I was cured all right," and the movie ends. For more wonderful recaps like this, subscribe to Blockbuster Breakdowns. See you next time.